So welcome back guys to another video, and one of the things I love about this channel is I love recommending games. I love talking about video games, and when someone leaves a video, they have a new game they want to play. That's my overall goal on this channel, and today I'm going to be talking about some awesome, cheap, affordable Switch games. And keep in mind, a lot of these games I did reviews of in the past, so if it's a game that I'm mentioning that you want to see a little more in-depth conversation, more in-depth review, be sure to check out the right side because I'll have a title card come up where you guys can click and watch the full review. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now the first game I want to talk about is a series I really don't hear enough people talk about. It is very underrated. I downloaded the first title back when I had my 3DS XL. It was the first game I downloaded. It was recommended from my co-host James Gruesome of Exodus Gaming Podcast. He's like, you gotta check this game out. It's cheap, it's a lot of fun. Well, now there's an HD collection on the Nintendo Switch that comes with 1 and 2, and I'm talking about the Gunman & Clive HD collection. Now, from the get-go, from just looking at it, you can see it has a very interesting art style. It almost has that rustic western feel, but it's also a side-scrolling running gun shooter. If you're a huge fan of games like Mega Man, this is definitely up your alley, and for $5, you really can't go wrong. I mean, the first one is amazing. The second one takes everything that was good about the first game, makes it even better, adding new characters, new play styles, and you know, the game has some challenge, but what I really like about it is you respawn right where you started, right from the get-go that you died. There's no checkpoints. You die, start again. I really love that mechanic, and this is a game I definitely recommend. Now, I'm a notorious addict when it comes to the Nintendo eShop. I go on the eShop all the time, looking at deals, looking at new games, and if something's cheap, I end up buying it. I'm like, you know, I want to try this out. And this game right here, I did a review a while back, and I was like, you know, this is kind of a gamble, but I'll play it anyway because it was just so cheap. It was like $2. And that is Biolab Wars, another running gun shooter. Listen guys, you're going to see a lot of these kind of games because I'm a retro guy at heart and I love these style of games. But this one here has a little bit more of a Journey of Silius kind of feel to it, and you play as 3 different characters. There's 7 to 8 different stages you can go through. It's a lot of fun, and for $2, you can't go wrong. Do you love Binding of Isaac? Do you love Super Metroid? Well, you definitely need to check out A Robot Named Fight. This is a really interesting indie Metroidvania with roguelike elements made by Morningstar. It's a one-man team, and yes, from first glance, it looks a lot like Super Metroid. And is that necessarily a bad thing considering Nintendo really hasn't been doing too much with the Metroid franchise to begin with? Well, if you're going into this expecting a Super Metroid clone, you will be definitely disappointed because it adds that roguelike element to it. Now what this means is you go through the stages, you go through the dungeons, you get your power-ups, but if you die, you're back at square one, you lose all your power-ups, and every area is random. It's completely new. So in my opinion, this adds a lot of replay value to it. I mean, it's not a long game, but it's not necessarily a game that you would beat and put on the shelf. It's something that you want to go back to and replay numerous times, and I think it's a fantastic game. Before I started making this video, one of the reasons why I picked this game is because it was just $1, but now the prices went back to its normal value of $12.99. To be honest, $12, you can't go wrong. Now, the next two games I'm going to be talking about are actually in a bundle that you can get really affordable on the Nintendo eShop, and two games that I reviewed back in 2018 that I really enjoyed, and that is Oniichan Oh Dollaz. Now, Oniichan is more of a side-scrolling ninja-style game, very reminiscent of games like Ninja Gaiden, and even some Batman 89 thrown in there, and it's also got some vehicle stages. It's a lot of fun. It's not an incredibly long game, it's pretty short, but it's got that challenge that you'll be playing it for quite some time. And also, Oh Dollaz is a totally different game in the spectrum. It's got more of a Rastan meets Castlevania feel. It almost makes you think of like an old school PC game, and what I really like about both these games is what they have in common is they have that retro feel that Joy Masher is great for. Matter of fact, check out Blazing Chrome if you haven't. Joy Masher makes some really fantastic games. But both these games have that that fling in common, but they're both very different. So I feel like you're getting a really good value for just $5. Normally these games are like $10 each, so definitely check it out. I will say, when I did the initial review of these two games back in 2018, one of my biggest gripes was the button mapping. I did not like the button mapping. Well, Joy Masher has made a patch where you can actually map the buttons to your liking, so that's definitely a plus. So if you watched that review back then and you're like, man, I'm going to kind of hold out, definitely now is the time to jump on it. You know, one of the things I love about modern gaming is that we can enjoy the days of arcades, and we can enjoy games in the full arcade perfect form of games that, you know, we may not never get to play again. And this game right here I feel like is a big piece of history, and it's part of the Nintendo's Arcade Archives collection, and that is Super Mario Bros. Versus. Now, from first glance, this may just look like Super Mario Bros. You may be asking yourself, why are you recommending this when I have Switch Online and I can play Super Mario Bros., or I can just play my original console and play it that way? Well, this is a little different because this was the arcade version of Super Mario Bros., and there are some major differences in difficulty. And I feel like if you are one of those folks that's played Super Mario Bros. So much that you can blindfold yourself, this is definitely a game to check out, because even the warp zones themselves are different. I mean, when you go to that 4-2 warp zone area, instead of going to World 8, you just go to World 6. It's really interesting, and the enemy placements are different, the stages are different. It's almost like playing something familiar with a whole new coat of paint and different difficulty. I cannot recommend it enough. And the last game I want to talk about, I feel like is the definitive way of playing this classic JRPG, and that is from Sega Ages, Phantasy Star. Now, Phantasy Star really doesn't need any sort of introduction. It's a really awesome sci-fi fantasy role-playing game that was on the Sega Master System, and it was a fantastic game. It definitely rivaled Final Fantasy in my opinion. I really did enjoy that game, but the Sega Ages port, I feel like, is the definitive version for many reasons, because I feel like it improves the quality of life with this game. I mean, first off, there's a little bit of things that you can do, like you can add extra EXP, extra money, so it turns a 25-hour game into a 12-hour game. The grinding gets cut down immensely. Now, for some folks that may feel like you're cheating a little bit, but be honest, if you're a newcomer to old school JRPGs, Phantasy Star is quite the grind fest, and I would really rather someone played and enjoy it and say, hey, I got to experience Phantasy Star. Yeah, I had extra EXP, I had extra money, but I had a fantastic time. I'd rather have that than someone kind of get turned off by just grinding immensely. And also, one of the biggest things that I love about this port on the Nintendo Switch is the map. Now, if you've played the original Phantasy Star, when you go in your dungeons, it's all in first-person view. It's very kind of cryptic in where to go, and everything looks kind of the same, and it got to the point where you almost had to get graph paper and write out the maps. I mean, this is old school right here, or now you can just go online and look at walkthroughs where the Sega Ages actually has a map option off to the lower right, and I think that is awesome. So you're not going to be spending hours going around in circles trying to find Odin. You're like, okay, this is where I need to be right now, and I think that is amazing. I feel like for anyone who's been on the fence, you know, kind of curious about playing Phantasy Star and you have a Nintendo Switch, definitely check out the Sega Ages port. You will not be disappointed. So anyway guys, those are some awesome cheap Switch games I highly recommend you guys check out. And what are some games that are cheap on the eShop that you enjoy? Leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. I'm always looking for cheap games. I love playing cheap games that are nice and fun, that don't break the bank. Leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you guys. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure not only to subscribe, but also to hit the bell for notifications. That way you're always notified whenever there's new content coming out on the channel. Anyway guys, as always, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and as always, happy gaming.